4-7, what's the 4-11? When you see me kneel like Kaepernick, call a rep.
What is up, everybody? Welcome back to Process Sports Radio. Once again, I'm your host, Justin. Today we got an in-depth episode today. I'm going to be talking about the Washington football team name change that I had mentioned last week. I just want to talk a little bit more in depth about it and how it's good the name is changing, but there's more that needs to be done. And I'm also going to relate that back to another thing in the NFL, Colin Kaepernick, and his whole protest, and how I believe that if and when the NFL, he does get another NFL opportunity, which he does deserve, the NFL needs to do a lot more than what they've already done. And I want to talk about that and just the sacrifices he's made. So it's going to be something that's been really on my mind, and something I really wanted to talk about. I just needed help to put it in the right words, and it took me some time, but I think I kind of got the basis of it covered. It's something that I will be going more in depth about. This is something that I feel like in this podcast I'm going to be talking more and more about. Just, stuff I've been posting about finding yourself and, understanding that the human mind and the human body is such a complex thing. It's so many different things that go into, success, failure, living your life, right? I just had a great conversation with a former colleague about the blueprint of life, if there really is a blueprint of life, especially in the South Asian community. That's something that I want to talk about in the upcoming episode, which I feel is a really big topic. How everybody feels that your life has to follow a certain blueprint when it doesn't. That's not how life works. So I'm definitely going to be touching on more and more stuff, because I feel that the message of this podcast was, yes, I would love to talk about sports and, trades, free agency signings, numbers, stats, who's going to win the chip, who's going to win that. Of course, that's all fine and dandy. But one of the things that really truly discovered over this whole process, this whole journey of mine, is finding out that sports, there's so much more to sports, such a deeper level meaning to sports. There's so many underlying messages through sports. Yes, it's easy to talk about just facts that are like, hey, like Patrick Mahomes signed for this contract, is he worth it? Yes. There's stuff or opinionated like that, but tying it into a worldly aspect where not only just us sports fans can relate to it, but people of all walks of life, because at the end of the day, we are all people in this universe. We are all people that, go through different struggles, whether that's, through racism or health or whatever. Everybody goes through a struggle in their life, and we all have our certain process, our certain goals and ambitions we want to achieve. And that's something that I really want to take this podcast and really use it, this platform I'm trying to make for myself, to spread the message of, hey, everybody goes through things, and I really want to tie it back to sport and how sport can really become the greatest teacher of all. And that's something that's really, really important to me. But before I get into all of that, once again, you can find me on YouTube. This video will be up on YouTube. So please like and subscribe to the channel. Please subscribe to podcast audio platforms such as Spotify, Apple Music, Google Podcasts, TuneIn Radio. You know where to find me at. Once again, on Instagram, follow me at Process Sports, Twitter _Process Sports, Facebook. Check out my website. You can find all my avenues on that website, processportsradio.com. I do have merch coming out, guys. It's just in the process of getting printed. So I do have people that have already ordered some. If you do want some, please feel free to email me or hit me up with my DMs on Instagram. I will definitely try to get you guys all some if you guys do want it. It looks really nice, actually. So I'm really happy with that. So, guys, that's kind of the rundown of what's going to be happening today. But before I get into the meat and potatoes of this, I want to talk about, UFC. It's about actual sports that took place. UFC 251 was this past weekend. Jorge Masvidal versus Kamaru Usman. A really high anticipated card on Fight Island in Abu Dhabi. And by the way, I think the UFC did a great job with Fight Island. I really, really love the setup, the layout. I was watching the embedded series on YouTube, how they, the behind the scenes access to kind of what the setup process took. And honestly, it was really well done. It was a really, really well done setup by the UFC, and I'm really glad they did it. The UFC definitely has been a pioneer in this whole thing with the pandemic. They're the first ones to come back and do it in a way where they're working with doctors and medical information and medical staffing like that, where they're making the right decision and putting their athletes first and making sure their athletes are healthy. So great kudos to the UFC. Going to the fights. It was kind of how I expected. I know if you guys saw me on Instagram and I put on my story that I picked Usman to win. by decision. He did. I just felt that Masvidal, yes, he's a really big name, but he's not as skilled as Kamaru Usman, who's a great wrestler, great clincher, great grappler, and that was on full display, right? We saw Masvidal come out strong, really try to push the pace, but got gassed out right away. And once he got gassed out, it was over. Usman was just going to take him down to the ground, work on him, stomp on his toes, whatever it took to win. And it was just a class finish like that. So that's what I predicted. Now, the big controversy was the Alexander Volkanovski fight versus Max Holloway, where everybody thought Holloway got robbed. Do I think Holloway got robbed? No. If you look at the first 3 rounds, yes, Holloway completely dominated those first 3 rounds. But if you look at the last 2 rounds, those championship rounds, which I feel does take a higher precedent compared to other fights, because this is a title fight, you need to dominate at least one of those rounds or win one of those rounds to become the champ. He didn't, and Volkanovski won those rounds in my opinion, so therefore that's why he's the champ. So it's not that big of a screw job in my opinion, but I do understand where people were coming from. So that was kind of my rundown on the UFC and the fight island. Like I said, great setup. I thought they were going to be fighting outside, but then it kind of clicked in my head, oh wait, 7 p.m. our time here, it's like 3 or 4 or 5 in the morning, in Abu Dhabi. You can't really fight outside in the sunshine like that. So kudos to the UFC for spending the money and creating a great facility in Abu Dhabi. But yeah, that was definitely not the most exciting card. It was more of a boring card relatively, but it was more so predictable than a lot of the outcomes that were happened. And like I said, kudos again to the UFC and Dana White for creating such a great atmosphere like that. Next, let's bring it closer to home. With the Vancouver Canucks on Friday, some pretty interesting news came out how the Canucks were talking about trading and had discussions about trading star winger Brock Besser. And for those of you guys that don't know, Brock Besser is, been a couple years in the league. He's probably one of the biggest pure sniper on the Canucks, top line winger. And they're looking to trade that because they don't have salary cap space, and they're going to be in salary cap hell because coming up in this offseason, you have your MVP, your goalie, your star MVP goalie, who put you in this position to make the playoffs possibly. Jacob Markstrom up for contract. You have a guy in Tyler Toffoli where you gave up assets such as Tyler Madden, draft picks like that, to bring him in to help you for this playoff run, and he's a UFA. You're going to want to sign him. Otherwise, that was a waste of picks and a prospect for a rental. That, quite frankly, the Canucks are in that position to have rentals right now. They're not in a win now window. The window is just about to open right now. Again, you have Chris Tanev, a stalwart defenseman who's been with the Canucks for years, and he's going to want a pay raise and a big contract, right? The Canucks are in salary cap hell, and the sad thing is they're not in a contending window just at this point in time. And that, for me as a Canucks fan, is so frustrating, seeing a team that has such good young pieces and a young core building around, just a young core building, and growing together. And then you're going to have to take one of those pillars of that young core and ship them out as a sweetener to dump cap space, right? Now, if you think about it, Besser signed a bridge deal, right? He's only signed on a 3-year deal, I believe, that runs out in a couple years. And then you're going to have to re-up him again, along with Hughes, Pedersen, right? Plus, who knows, Podkolzin and all these other young guys coming up. They're going to want to get paid too, right? And the thing is, it's all going to come back and bite Jim Benning in the ass right now, because when you sign guys like a Sutter, a Beagle, of course, we all know Louis Eriksson's contract, right? And this is another thing about Louis Eriksson. For all you people out there in Canucks Twitter that thinks Louis Eriksson's, now that his majority of his contract's paid, only has $5 million remaining, you think he's going to turn down $5 million just to sit in the press box? I'm sure he'll sit in the press box and just sit there and collect his $5 million, okay? So that contract, the Canucks are going to be stuck on the hook for that until the very end, right? So it sucks because the Canucks have to go down this avenue of trading away a star winger like that. And I'm not a proponent of trading Besser, but if it gets them out of salary cap hell, you're going to have to explore that option, right? Because at the end of the day, if it makes sense to make the club better and put them in position to win, that's what at the end goal is. We want to see the Canucks win a Stanley Cup. I want to see them make the playoffs. I want to see them become contenders again. Do I believe Brock Besser is important in that and more important than a Tyler Toffoli? Yes. Would I rather see Toffoli walk than Besser? Absolutely. But you need these pieces that you brought in. You need that core to come in, and you need to hold on to it for as long as you can. Why do you think the Canucks were so successful previously in the Mike Gillis regime? Because they had guys, Sedins, Kessler, Burrows, Bieksa, Luongo. They had them. They never shipped them out. They let them grow together and play together. That's how they grew. And they put the right pieces around them, whether it was a Manny Malhotra or a Christian Ehrhoff, a Dan Hamhuis, whoever else they brought in, right? They put a Chris Higgins. They brought in people that supported their core players. The Canucks right now are, teams like the Leafs are so top heavy where they have such high salaries for their top players and they're in cap hell too. The Canucks are the opposite. Their bottom 6 forwards are basically anchors to this team. Their fourth line is $9 million. Or sorry, $12 million. Something outrageous like that, which is absolutely nuts in my mind, that you're paying your fourth liners more money than some of your top line players, right? You have guys that you have like Horvat, the Bessers, the Petterssons, the Hughes, the Millers, even like a Pearson I throw in there, right? You have guys coming up like a Rathbone, and you have these young guys right now where you can build something special, but they're stuck in cap hell because this management team was just stupid in free agency, spending stupid amounts of money on guys that weren't worth it. Because you gave Jay Beagle, a 3 or 4 year deal because he had a Stanley Cup experience, because he was a fourth line center for the Washington Capitals. That's not going to cut it. You give Louis Eriksson a 6-year deal worth $6 million. That's completely anchored your club. Brandon Sutter, he's injured. And people think that you can just ship these guys out like nobody wants them. Those guys that are anchors on the Canucks, the Erikssons, the Beagles, the Sutters, the Russells, they're worthless to people. People outside of Vancouver think they're absolutely worthless and garbage. They're not worth anything. That's why you have to dangle a guy like Besser or God hope not nobody else, right, to get those contracts off your books. And that's the problem when you sign these shitty players to these big deals in free agency. And that's why free agency is such a hard thing for GMs, because they overspend on absolute shit. Especially in the NHL. You spend your money on absolute dog shit and it ends up screwing your team over like that, right? And it's something that the Canucks, and especially Benning's a great drafter, great evaluation of talent, right? I will not, for once, I think he's done a great job of rebuilding this team and finding young talent that can replenish this roster compared to what the last regime had. I totally agree with that. But Mike Gillis and the previous Canucks management staff knew how to organize a salary cap and have a salary cap structure within a team and spend the right amount of money. This Jim Benning regime has been notorious for spending stupid amounts of money on guys that aren't worth it. You have a guy like Michael Furlan. You gave him another 4-year deal. He is injury prone. He's had concussion problems, and he's still not fit to play right now, right? It's just something that just baffles me, because what are you doing? This is something that, yes, it's better than where we were before as Canucks fans, where they were one of the worst teams and there was none of this mattered. Now it matters. If you want to build a team, you have to make smart decisions cap-wise, because the cap's not going to go up anymore. The cap is going to be flat for a couple of years now because of this whole COVID-19 situation. You're going to have to figure out a way to get smart and creative and circumvent this cap to make yourself better. That's the way Mike Gillis made the team better. He's used ways and his knowledge of the cap to make sure his team was always in the best position to improve. Benning's handcuffed right now. He's not wired that way. And I'm hoping that whether somebody in the front office knows how to do it and they can fix this, because we don't have to trade assets like Besser where he belongs here. He needs to be here with Pettersson. You need that 1-2 punch up front. You cannot just trade somebody like that away. And for me, it's just something that is frustrating, and I hope that it does get cleared up. In my opinion, do I think that the Canucks they're probably going to keep Toffoli and Markstrom and probably have to let Tanev walk, right? If that's the case, that's fine. But think about it like this: the Canucks' weakness already was their defense, right? The Canucks' biggest problem was defense. They had to have Jacob Markstrom save their ass. How many times this year? You saw, once again, as I said, millions of times. When Jacob Markstrom got hurt, the team went down like this, right? That is something that the Canucks need. They need that defense. They need to build out their back end. That's not going to fix anything. Getting rid of Tanev is not going to fix anything. Get rid of Jake Virtanen. Hell yeah, he's not going to come back, in my opinion. I wouldn't RFA tender him. I wouldn't want him, because $3 million for a guy who's going to score, maybe 20 goals tops and causes all these problems off the ice? No, he's not worth it. Jake Virtanen needs to go. Troy Stetcher, he's a nice guy. You can let him walk too, right? You can find other options for that, right? So the Canucks really need to buckle up, get their salary cap situation in order, and figure out a way to keep this young core intact. Because this young core, I'm telling you right now, is special. This Canucks young core is very, very special. And you need to let it grow together and let these guys build together. So Jim Benning, get your ass in gear, figure out this cap situation, and fix your mistakes. Right? So yeah, guys, let's slide over to what I wanted to really talk about today was As we know, the Washington NFL team officially retired their previous name yesterday. And I just want to touch on a little bit more where I feel that it's, like I said, mentioned before, it's great that they're changing the name, that they're going down this path. It was about time. It's years and years in advance. But let's not pump the brakes a little bit and understand that this was done for one simple reason only by the owner, Dan Snyder, because it comes back to money. Money by the sense of that is a company like FedEx, as I mentioned before, spends over $200 million to license this, put their name on the stadium. They pay Dan Snyder to put their name on the stadium where that team plays. Nike took merchandise off the website. Investors in the team that own about 40% of the team, threatened to sell the team. So Dan Snyder, worrying about his bottom line, his pocket, decided to change the name. Now, I saw that him and Coach Ron Rivera are going to be leading the charge of the name change and the rebrand. I really hope they have the indigenous community involved. This was a racial slur towards those people, and they deserve to have a say in the change, in my opinion. And that's something I want to talk about, being the change. It's one thing to say that you're going to change, but be the change. So for Dan Snyder and the Washington football franchise, they need to understand that they need to include the people that they hurt to become the change, right? You need to include them, whether it's honoring them or having them, give them avenues to make their wrongs better, right? An apology won't cut it. An apology will not cut it at all. This is something that is much deeper than any apology will ever do. You must include them in the rebranding phase. You must apologize to them publicly, and you must include the indigenous community in this, because that's being the change. It's one thing to just cut the check, say an apology, and move on and find a different name. No, you've hurt these people. These people are upset. Society's upset about this name. They've been saying it for years. Now you finally decide to change it to protect your bottom line, and you don't have the decency to apologize and include them. You better be including them. You better not only apologize. The NFL should apologize to them as well, because this is something that the NFL allowed for years and years and years, when it is a racial slur to a group of people who have been just horrible things have happened to, right? And it's something that, like I said, needs to be addressed, right? Having just money affect this change is one thing, but understanding that change, realizing that you made a mistake, and making the change, be the change, right? It's the same thing with Colin Kaepernick, right? For those of you guys that don't remember, Colin Kaepernick was the star quarterback for the San Francisco 49ers, led them to a Super Bowl and an NFC championship game, and then has not played in the league in the last 3 years because of a protest due to police brutality and racial injustice going on with African Americans in the United States of America. As we all know, what's been going on lately, ever since the tragic accident of George Floyd, has been really put on notice, and I'm glad that the fight is still continuing on. Kaepernick, if and when he does get a chance, and he does deserve a chance, Kaepernick definitely deserves a chance because he's been blackballed by the league. It's pretty evident that Kaepernick was blackballed by the NFL. He led a team to a Super Bowl and cannot get another chance in the league, where guys like a Mike Glennon or just Blake Bortles or whoever, these guys that are just absolute top piles of shit, just trash, right? Get chances in the league, chance after chance, where a guy who has had success, now I'm not saying Kaepernick is a superstar quarterback. He was not a superstar quarterback, but I'll be damn sure not. He was a top end starting quarterback in the league at a certain point in time. Is he better than every backup in the NFL? I'd have to say so, right? I think Kaepernick deserves to be in the league. I think Kaepernick deserves another chance. But here's the thing. An apology will not cut it, Roger Goodell or the league. You have to be the change. Be the change. What was Kaepernick? He was a change. He stood up for something that he believed was going on in his community, his country, that he felt was wrong, and he protested, right? He sacrificed his whole career, millions of dollars, his dream to play in the NFL for something that he believed was the right thing to do. You look at that Nike ad he put out. Sacrifice everything for something you believe in. That's something that not a lot of people can do. A lot of people talk about how they want to change, how this needs to change, but they don't put into action. A guy like Colin Kaepernick saw something going on in his country, in society, and he was the change. He sacrificed everything. He has not gotten a chance in the NFL when he totally deserves another chance because he put himself out there and stood up for something that was right. That is something that not a lot of people, especially professional athletes, will do. Colin Kaepernick is a hero like that. Somebody like Muhammad Ali as well. If you look at Muhammad Ali, what did he do? He got the prime of his boxing career taken away from him because he had to go to jail. He was incarcerated because he decided not to fight in the Vietnam War for the United States of America because he felt that was not his duty. Why would I fight a war that I didn't want? Right? And him, athletes like Kareem Abdul-Jabbar, Jim Brown, Bill Russell, they stood up for that cause. They fought for that cause. And you know what? Now they're pioneers. When you look back at a guy like Colin Kaepernick right now, Kaepernick is going to be in that same realm because you know what? He sacrificed his career. I'm sure if Colin Kaepernick had not protested and continued on with his career, he would have got another deal as a starting quarterback, whether it was with the 49ers or not. Somebody would have given him an opportunity, but they didn't because he bucked the trend. He stood up for what he believed in, and he did the right thing, right? You look at a guy like LeBron James. He steps out and says stuff about what's going on in society, and he is a change. Serena Williams, people, anybody like that, they are the change, right? You can say everything you want about changing this, changing that, but you have to put that into action. A lot of, like Marshawn Lynch said, it's about that action, boss. It's all fine and dandy to say stuff, to say that I want to change this should change this. But sacrificing stuff and becoming that change is something that truly puts you into that other category of greatness and really resonates with people. When I look at a guy like Colin Kaepernick and I see what he had to go through and what he's still fighting, right? Where the people are putting these hurdles in front of him. And somebody who lives in Canada, who knows that racism exists in Canada and racism exists all over the world, I can never imagine what it's like to be an African American in the United States, having to fear leaving your house every day and wondering if I'm ever going to come home. I never have that fear living here. And I'm blessed and grateful to be living in Canada where I don't have to worry about that. But when you see what's going on in the United States of America, where African Americans are fearful of leaving their home because they don't know if the police will protect them. That is what Colin Kaepernick was standing up about oppression of his people. And he stood up for that because he knew it was right and he didn't care what was in the way. He didn't care that the NFL and people chastised. You know what the thing was? People felt that he was disrespecting the anthem. He talked to a Green Beret soldier, somebody who fought, a white one as well, who fought in wars for the United States. And he had mentioned the idea of taking a knee. When you want something to change, you take that initiative and become that change. That is something that I feel that for myself that I really need to work on. If I want to see a change in not only my personal self, but in society for my people or people in my society, we need to take the stand and become the change. It's all fine. I need to post stuff on social media and do this and that, but also educate ourselves about what's going on and understand that when you have that knowledge base, you understand what's going on in society, and not only just African Americans or here in Canada, Indigenous people, but even people in the South Asian community like Punjabis and stuff like that. We all have to deal with racism. We all jump through the same hurdles on a daily basis, and we all fight the same fight. We must all join together as one, understand that in society now, the only way we're going to get better is if we all come together and work together. It's just like a team in sports. How are the most successful teams in pro sports? They all work together. It's a group of individuals who come together as one for a one common goal. In society now, we need to understand as people that to come together and make society better, we need to all come together as one, as a team, and work together for the common goal of equality, whether that's gender, race, sexuality, whatever. We all need to understand we are all one person, we are all one people, and we are all one society. And we only just show that love and respect for one another. Colin Kaepernick, he really put it on the forefront where, like I said, he sacrificed everything for the cause. And that's something that will never, ever be forgotten. Something for me that the Washington owner, Dan Snyder, needs to understand is be the change. Understand you made the mistakes and you basically spat on the face of a whole race of a group of people. Include them in the change. Include them in this process. Understand that they've been hurt. Let them help you create that wrong into a right. And guys, that's, like I said before, we're all one. We're all the same at the end of the day. We all bleed. We all cry. We all do the same stuff. We need to come together as one society of people and work together as a team to make this world a better place. This year's been one of the craziest, worst years ever. Now's the time where we're at our rock bottom in society, right? Where we need to come together, build together as one, whether you're black, white, brown, yellow, purple, whatever. Come together as one and understand that we need to build each other back up and not tear each other down, right? And that's kind of what I want to talk about today, guys. Like I said, I hope this resonates with you, and I hope you understand where I'm coming from. I'm not trying to be an advocate or anything like that. I'm just telling you guys what my opinion is, where we need to all come together as one. Hopefully you guys agree. If you disagree, then you disagree, right? But like I said, guys, it's all about love. It's all about peace. And it's all about equality at the end of the day. So like I said, thank you to everybody for listening. I appreciate all your support, and I'll talk to you guys soon.